Simon Budley, citizen of Birmingham, or as he calls himself, pretty much citizen of Handsworth, works as a visiting lecturer at the University of Birmingham. He has always been interested in history of Handsworth Park in particular, in which he has been involved for more than 20 years.
The park has a very impressive history because it wasn't, like many parks, one that was given by a philanthropist. It had to be fought for. Tremendous pressures at the time Birmingham was expanding to build all over this land, very valuable development land, and a relatively small number of leading citizens who were residents of Handsworth back in the 1870s and 1880s fought to buy a piece of land, the Grove Estate, big house used to be over here, for what was then quite a large sum of money, £6,000, to create a park. And it took them about 10 years, a lot of politicking, and a lot of people who left Birmingham to come and live in Handsworth didn't really like the idea of having a park that they thought would attract the wrong people, whereas the more far-sighted people saw that this place, which in those days was right out in the Staffordshire countryside, surrounded by everything you associate with rural England, that in another 100 years would be the last piece of green space left within several square miles. And then the City Council, around the year 2000, put in a Millennium Lottery bid and won a very significant sum of money to restore the park against enormous competition from all around the Midlands. Handsworth Park, partly because of the loyalty of the people of Handsworth who loved this park and had wonderful memories of it. We were granted something in the region of £9 million, partly from Europe, partly from the City Council and partly from the Millennium Lottery. And then in 2005, 2006, the park was restored. And I was sitting over there on a lovely sunny day when we had the formal opening of the park by the Lord Mayor of Birmingham, the reopening of Handsworth Park. And I tell you, it was one of the most exciting days, next to the birth of my children, that I've experienced since I've lived in Birmingham. Absolutely wonderful day. And now I do guided tours around the park, and I wrote a bit of a history of the park which people can look at. And this place is very close to my heart. I'm basically not a Brummie. I was brought up in London. I didn't have a very high opinion of Birmingham, but now you couldn't drag me away from this place.
Despite many attempts to construct buildings on the park side, it still remains a beautiful piece of greenery for the community.
When we were exploring about this bandstand in order to restore it, we had to find out where it was made. So it was traced back to a foundry in Glasgow, which is amazing when you think Birmingham was a city of 1,000 trades. You think it'd be made here. But in fact, the ironworks in Glasgow, there were about 10 of them, specialised in making parks equipment for parks all over the British Empire, not just in England, when parks started to be made in the 1870s. And from the original catalogue, which I saw, you know, this librarian very delicately opened this old catalogue, and there were all these pictures. Now that's our bandstand. And then we went down to the works, the foundry in Glasgow, and there were all these Scottish workmen clambering all over these things. They're all taking apart, they'd all been stripped down, unscrewed and so on, unbolted, all this was there, and they're all lying in this yard, all covered in grey paint. And they were beginning to make this thing up again. This is, 300 miles north of here. And then later on, it all came back on a flatbed lorry, and they reassembled it in front of us.
Today, Handsworth Park is being visited for various reasons, whether it's attending a festival or just a walk in the park with the family.